Hello there, welcome back to my views and news. An important news story, a revelation by a news outlet about a foreign Fano commander who has been killed in the Amhara region of Ethiopia. Fano fighters are not just Ethiopians living in the Amhara region. Some Fano fighters from abroad have joined this resistance movement. A new story of a Fano commander who is from Israel is being aired on some news channels. Who is this Fano commander? How did he arrive in the Amhara region? How was he killed? What is his name? He wasn't a Fano fighter, he was leading thousands of Fano fighters. So we can say he was a commander. An Israeli news channel has published this new story about a Fano commander. His name is Ashisham Johannes. Ashisham Johannes was based in Israel. For more than 20 years, he has been based in Israel. From Ethiopia, he went to Israel. I think he is one of Ethiopian Jews. Some people call them falashas. During Derg era, Ethiopian Jews were airlifted through Sudan, through some other countries. Several operations were launched. He could be one of those Jews who were airlifted from Ethiopia decades ago. So he settled there. He had a family there, wife, son. But his parents, I think, were in the Amhara region in Ethiopia. When war broke out, perhaps war is not the right word, when a conflict started in the Amhara region, Ashisham Johannes decided to return to the Amhara region to fight against Ethiopian military. In Israel, Ashisham had military experience. He worked as a soldier, he worked as a police officer. So he returned to the Amhara region and he joined the Fano factions. And gradually he rose to the ranks of a Fano commander because he had military experience, police experience. And he was leading a unit of more than 1,000 Fano fighters. He has been killed. It has been confirmed by his family. I-24 interviewed his son. His son confirmed the departure, the death of his father, Ashisham Johannes. No one knows how many other foreign Fano fighters are operating in the Amhara region. When Tigray war broke out, because we know that Tigray was put under siege. So it was impossible for Tigray to get any manpower from outside Tigray. That siege forced TDF to make compromises because that was a long siege, 2-year long siege. It was difficult to get supplies to. Those aid agencies were accused of supporting Tigray forces, but overall Tigray was under complete siege. When Tigray forces entered Amhara region, we saw that Amhara activists, Ethiopian activists from across the world, they arrived in Ethiopia to fight against Tigray forces. People like Andergacho Sege and Niamen Zalake, European, Americans, Canadian citizens, they arrived in the Amhara region in Ethiopia. They wore military uniforms. Maybe that was a symbolic gesture, but they showed their support for the war and they joined the war against the Tigray forces. Now, Amhara region is not under siege. Fano fighters are connected with Sudan. They were seen in Kwara a few days ago. Kwara is right on Sudan-Ethiopia border. You can easily reach Sudan from Kwara. Kwara is part of West Gondar. It is on Gondar, Sudan border. So they can easily connect with the neighboring countries. And secondly, obviously, Amhara is not under siege in terms of road access to. From other regions, people can travel to the Amhara region. So that is why Fano fighters from abroad can join this struggle. I personally know another Fano fighter who is from the US, a female Fano fighter, in touch with me for months. She was in the Amhara region a few days ago, and she contacted me when she was with Fano fighters. I know her for some time. Later she returned. Now she is back in the US. And this Fano commander from Israel, he managed to enter the Amhara region. He started leading Fano fighters, killed. On which front, it's not clear. But this development indicates that, as I've been saying, Fano fighters are not just farmers, unskilled farmers with small weapons fighting the military. No. These Fano factions have some very well-trained people. They have thousands of Amhara Special Force members. More than 50,000. My estimate is that number of Amhara Special Force members who have joined Fano factions is around 50,000. 50,000 ASF members, Ethiopian National Defense Force members, foreigners too. How many foreigners? No one knows. If Ashisham Johannes can join, obviously it means that others can join too. Interestingly, Israel has been conducting rescue operations. Israel did conduct some rescue operations this month and last month to rescue Jews living in the Amhara region. I think around 100 were rescued by Israeli government, and they were shown landing in Israel from Ethiopia. They thanked Israeli government. So on the one hand, Israel is rescuing Jews from Amhara region. On the other hand, Jews from Israel are coming to Ethiopia, to the Amhara region, to fight against Ethiopian military. No control, obviously, from Israeli government on its citizens. Obviously, Ethiopia can raise this issue. Ashisham Johannes was an Israeli citizen. No regret, no remorse shown by his family. His son was interviewed and he said that his father went to protect his homeland, protect his family. It means that others in Israel, they have the same emotions. If they have opportunity, they'll join this war. And Johannes had family, married. He left his wife, his kids, and joined the struggle in the Amhara region. So, his family, when it was interviewed, his son said that the war in Amhara was not being covered by international media. So it is a war for Amhara people, for those who are fighting. They say it's a war, like Russia-Ukraine war. They say Russia-Ukraine war is getting international attention, but people are being massacred in the Amhara region, and no one is covering the plight of people in the Amhara region. So it's a very important development, viewer. That means that Fano has logistical support from abroad, manpower support from abroad, monetary, financial support from abroad, diplomatic support from abroad. David Wolde Georgius is active on international front. He visited Europe. By the way, he was in Israel too, if you remember. David visited Israel a few weeks ago. I did a video on that. Though he is from the US, but he was in Israel. And if you remember, David met with Israeli foreign minister. And if you remember, back then we raised this point that David had access to a top minister in Israel, foreign minister. David arrived here, maybe he was recruiting for Fano factions. Maybe after David's visit, Ashasham Johannes went to Israel, or before that went to Amhara, or before that, but David is now recruiting people abroad. He is getting logistical, financial, diplomatic support for Fano fighters in Europe and America. North America, this conflict in the Amhara region, viewers, it's not just a clash between a militia and military, and which can which will come to an end in a few days. No, it's a struggle which is widening. It's a resistance movement. Government can call it rebellion or terrorism, whatever the government calls it, but this conflict is going to spread. International players will be involved. Let's hope they are involved for mediation, for a resolution. If fighters from the US, from Israel can join Fano factions, it means that this war, this conflict is set to go on. Siege cannot be fully implemented on the Amhara region, because Sudan is not on board with Ethiopia. Sudan is involved in its own internal conflict. Sudan border already very porous border. It can easily be used by Fano fighters to move from Ethiopia to Sudan and vice versa. Clip for you of Ashasham Johannes' new story published by I-24. I think it's an Israeli news channel. Thank you for watching.
Correspondent Ariel Levin-Waldman spoke to one such family in Israel to find out more. Let's take a look.
Far away from their Israeli homeland, Israeli citizens fight and die for their birthplace. This was Ashasham Johannes. He emigrated from Ethiopia about 20 years ago, but returned to fight in the African nation's bloody civil wars. 2 weeks ago, he died in Amhara.
As the years went on, he saw what was happening in Ethiopia and saw that the nation was suffering. He couldn't stay out anymore. So he went over to fight against the government. He joined the Fano militia and quickly rose to the ranks.
Ashasham was a soldier and then a police officer in Israel, and back in Amhara his experience saw him leading over 1,000 Fano militiamen. Ashasham to leave his wife and children and travel to an active war zone, torn between the family he built, safe in Israel's center, and the family he came from, vulnerable to war.
My father wanted peace in general, but he went there to protect his family, his mother, his grandfather. They're old and very much in danger. They need someone to protect them.